Good morning, KNS. It is Saturday, February 7th. I'm your host, Bud Wiry, and you're in the shop. So I hope everybody's staying warm out there. With this latest cold snap we've had, it's been absolutely brutal. I know I came out here last week, tried to get in the shop, and I couldn't get the main furnace to run that heats it out here. And, I don't think teeth chattering was going to make very good radio. So, but we got everything back online now. We had parts come in. We got all systems are go. So, guys, I wanted to jump off in a whole bunch of topics that we got. I can't believe how busy local politics and local information, all that stuff could really be. But, and it's amazing how long the local media has kind of missed all this stuff. But anyway, let's dig off in it. So, as many of you guys know that follow along on the shop page or, on the X or anywhere else, during this peak cold snap that we've had power companies actually reaching out to the communities and requesting that people cut down on their usage of electricity. Now, electricity is a huge conversation right now in Indiana because we got all these data centers and everything else. So I know this has a lot of the local residents around here going, how are you guys going to sit there and ask us to cut down on using electricity? And then also at the same time claiming that you can serve these big data centers like Meta that's coming in here that's expected to use this as much electricity as a whole city. So, this is the insanity of what we have going on right now in Indiana. And there's really no other way to look at it because when you look at what they're doing, when everybody knows there's a shortage and they keep rushing you to that crisis faster, they're doing that intentionally. And we've seen that so many times around here. So, just like with Lebanon, the water, they're like, oh, we've needed water for all this years. Well, they drilled them wells out there by Sugar Creek. So the Lebanon well puts out 1 million gallon a day. Well, they got that additional 4 million gallon a day out of them wells over off Sugar Creek. So the people were actually good for a long time, but what they do, they allotted every bit of that to these giant corporations. And then, now all of a sudden Lebanon's in a water crisis. People couldn't get permits to do a new project because they had no more water. That's been going on for 2 years and it still ain't solved yet. I mean, nobody can get all that stuff going until 27 when this new citizens water starts flowing into town. But that's that whole thing. So you had the people weren't in a crisis and they rushed you to it. And now, what's the solution? A $700 million pipeline, and the city now gets this nasty service water. We're going to have these plants putting all their wastewater in everybody's drink. I mean, that is the crisis. So they created the crisis so they could actually give you just another crisis. And it's the same thing with this electricity. When they're telling you that they don't have enough, we don't have enough extra surplus for a little cold weather. So they don't have enough to run a whole nother city's worth of these data centers, and they're planning them all over our state. So what are they doing, guys? They are absolutely just walking everybody into the next crisis. And if everybody wants to know where the money's going to be coming from to solve these crises, you can pull out your wallet there, take a quick peek around, and you're going to have a pretty good idea where it's going to come from. Because when all they're doing, and they're transferring this money to all these giant corporations. Because who's it helping? It's helping all them people. When you're doing this giant data center that only employs 40 people or something like that, it's not a community benefit thing. It's to, try to put a little coin in the public coffers so they can waste it on themselves. And it's helping all these corporations because the people aren't getting the benefit out of this stuff. What you're going to get out of this is, basic supply and demand says when you have less of something or it's more desirable out of the thing, it's worth more money. So when they make water all of a sudden to where, the shortages, you got to cut back, that's coming. And when that happens, they're going to raise the prices of it. Same way with electricity. And then they're going to start pushing you to, yeah, your heat needs to be down. Oh, your water needs not be so hot. That's where they're going to come for the savings because, and how they're going to get you to do that is by pricing it much higher. It's not even going to be, like this little, so it's just a suggestion now with and the way they've been doing it is so the bigger power providers to our state and to our areas are sitting there and they're reaching out to all these smaller communities. So I think when I posted about it, the first community, I had somebody send me from them was Advance, because Advance put it out there. But then you had Jamestown, you had all these other communities, the same thing, because they're getting their power in from these big providers, and it's the big providers saying, "Hey, we don't have it to give, and you're going to possibly cause a big problem." And the way the grid is, if they have a big problem somewhere, it can kind of cascade around and create other problems. So, and everybody that's known anything about the electric in Indiana and pretty much across our nation for any amount of years know that our grid has not been rugged and strong enough as is, and had pretty systematic problems. So to see, but they admitted it. I mean, when the power company sit there and sends it out, so it's all been conversation. The politicians come out and tell you everything's okay. There's not going to be a problem. We have enough, blah, blah, blah. We're going to approve it. What we just found out is they're just absolutely lying to everybody, but everybody should see it. And I think most people that can take their head out of their phone or something for a minute generally does, because how blatant is that? They sit there and tell you that we have enough for all this stuff. They know how much electricity all these data centers are doing. And then they send you out a thing saying, please cut back because we don't have enough power. So I couldn't think of anything that was as much in your face. And when I seen it the first time, guys, I took a step back. I'm like, I can't believe they didn't even have a conversation about, like, maybe we shouldn't mention it or something. But for them to go out there and mention it like that to all the communities lets you know exactly how bad of a problem that really is. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't have. So, all right. I'm going to move on from that. I don't want to spend too much time. So another huge topic of the community here recently is all of these walkouts. So we've had different schools all across our state doing these walkouts. And recently we had Zionsville do a walkout of their own. And, guys, this whole thing is just driving me nuts, to be honest, because it's all based off of lies. They go out there and they're like, justice for Good, the Renee Good that lost her life. Well, she hit the agent with her SUV hard enough that it caused him internal bleeding. And this is an agent that had just recovered 6 months ago from being run over in another incident by same thing. Somebody that they were after, or that was in their area, actually used their car to run him over. And here it was happening to him again. She hit him with the car, and then he took her life. I mean, he stopped it. You don't know. In his mind right then, he didn't know there could have been other people, kids on the other side of him. He has no idea. He's pointing towards the driver. She decides to turn her vehicle into a weapon, and she lost her life over it. And, it's still sad, but it isn't a reason to go out and protest. And then you had what was his name? The Alex Preddy, which he comes out there and, they're like, ICE is just murdering people in the streets, blah, 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 and trying to make a big deal out of that one. And then you find out, video comes out, he's been going and starting fights with these agents for weeks while armed. Now, if you go out there and you have a pistol hidden inside your waistband and you're starting fights with the cops, kicking out the lights off the vehicle and, engaging them and stuff, I'm sorry, it's not going to end well. I mean, if you're going to come up to fighting with me and I see that you have a pistol flopping around, I'm going to be taking this situation a lot more serious. And, that's the exact same thing. So they're basing these protests and this stuff. And it's just like the George Floyd thing, where they go out there and, yeah, the incident was bad, but George Floyd was spun out high on fentanyl. George Floyd was an absolute dirtbag. He sat there and held a gun to a pregnant woman so they could rob her. I mean, this was not a good guy. And, this is how this media does it. And, during the Floyd thing, that always killed me because, they asked everybody in the country how they felt about this incident, except for the woman that George Floyd held at gunpoint so they could rob her. They never tracked her down so they could ask her how she felt about all the statues and stuff being built. But that's the same thing. And this left coming out again. And they're taking these people and they're trying to make heroes out of people that were in the wrong. I'm sorry. If you go and try to interfere with police and get in the middle of that and try to actually, let me try to stop them from what they're doing. Let me hit one with a car. I mean, these are the things that are going to happen. The ICE is not just randomly going and killing people on the streets. That does not happen. That's absolute hyperbole. It's not happening. You know what ICE is doing? Overdoses are down 21%. You know, these are people's lives. These are our friends, your neighbors, your family, other children. Overdose deaths are down 21%, and they are removing violent murderers, rapists, child traffickers, and every other, heathen out there at breakneck speed. These are good things. And, I'm the type of person that believes, well, everybody, okay, you can be like, hey, I don't like how law enforcement does this or that. I generally believe that these are good people that are working towards our benefit. And these agents out there are officers of the law, and they're out there trying to make our place safer. But, when the left sends everybody out there to engage them, because, like I've talked about before, it's almost like we have some subset of our population that's almost ready to be engaged. They're already programmed, so all they need is for the TV and, these media sources to tell them that they need to be angry and go out, and they're ready to go. But once the TV tells them to go out, now you're making these officers' jobs so much more dangerous, because they could have just been going around, and if everybody didn't tell them that they needed to be mad and go out there and engage them, it would all be going smoothly. They're creating these crises. They're creating these incidents, because when he was president and he was deporting a bunch of people, you didn't see them going out there and doing that. So you know what? It stayed quiet. Everything was fine. They are creating this, like they sit there and dox all these ICE agents if they can see their face and tell everybody who they are and everything else, to send violence and this stuff towards them people's family. And then at the same time, they want to raise all kinds of hell about them wearing face masks to try to hide their identity. It's like, you guys literally are causing it, and then you're wanting to rail about the problem that you caused. You created this whole environment to where these things are like this, and then they want to go out and make it a political talking point. But now, onto the schools, we have these activists, and we have these, I know over there in Zionsville, they have these activists inside the schools, inside the library, inside on the brick street, everywhere else. They have a network of left-wing activists over there, and they engaged, and these people are out there, and they're working on these children and getting these children to get out there and, push their narrative for them. So we have all these schools, and, half of these kids are just they just want to leave class. They don't care what the reason is. It was probably one of my favorite comments. I seen one guy mention, he goes, I would have protested ice cream to get out of class. And I mean, that's kind of the thing. So a lot of these people just want out, and the rest of them, they're just sitting there going along with all this programming. And I know we have mentioned things on the show before about what's happened in that community and things that have happened in that library. So we know that stuff's happening there, but this still takes me to it. So with all of their indoctrination, with all of their programming, with all of the peer pressure of these students putting on the other ones, because, they're sitting there, oh, so you don't care. And, we know how they are. All people are like that. And then you take it to younger people, high school sort of stuff, and it's even worse. So, but the thing is, so with all of that, they only got like 17% of the students to do this walkout. And that got me to thinking, so everybody talked about that. It was a real big deal. I think my posting of it was seen by 150,000 people. I mean, so it was a really big thing. A lot of people cared about all these kids walking out. And mostly it was, why isn't the school keeping these children in school like where they belong? That was 95% of the comments. Like, these kids are supposed to be in school, not, supposed to be out there protesting some left-wing made-up narrative. But nonetheless, there the children were. So, but that got me to think. I was talking with a really smart individual, and, we're kind of going back and forth over the thing. And this person kind of planted the seed of thought in me about how we needed to be, almost commending the 82%, because here we got, like I said, you got 17% of the population walk out. Everybody goes, oh my God, look at all these kids walking out. Well, that you don't forget, 82% of those kids were still in class. They were still learning. These are the people that are resistant to the programming. And you're like, those are going to be our community leaders, because it's the people that can actually live in the shared reality with everybody else and not go down these programmed wormholes. They are going to be the people. And you're like 82%. So I still think we're in pretty good standing. As bad as it looks when you see these kids walking out, I mean, a lot of these times it is a very still a small percentage of them that are believing in all this nonsense. But it is sad. It's sad that they got teachers in there. And I mean, every time. So we already got a bunch of conservatives that talk all the time about, you know, public education needs broken up. And every time they go out and do this stuff, what they got to understand is they are writing the story for everybody else. Because most all people, you could poll it, everybody believes that these kids ought to be in school learning something, not protesting or doing anything else. They're there to be getting an education. That's what the taxpayers are paying for, and that is everything that it should be. So you're not going to find a group of people that are going to be like, oh yeah, no, we should be only on the left of this small little bit of activists think we ought to be programming these kids to go out into the streets. And then, dude, the lawsuits are going to be epic on this thing, because I know there was one student that got hit by a car while out protesting. I think there's another gentleman, and that's here in the state, where he was raising because his child had some sort of special needs, and the school let his child leave. He's like, "What are you doing?" It's like you are endangering my child by allowing them to leave. Like we would, as a parent, when we send our children out, they are now in the school's care. And if we send them there and they're just going to let your kid go walk out and get into all kinds of trouble, that's a problem. And I know that as a parent myself, if you just let my child walk out your door and into the care of a bunch of activists, I'm going to be absolutely livid. There's no way, because that's who I shared it from. So when I first seen about the Zionsville walkout, it was posted by an activist group there in Zionsville, and they were talking about how glad they were to see other members of their little activist group involved in this protest. And so when I posted that and I said about it having the involvement of activists, it was because the activists admitted to being there and to being part of this group that they were pushing. So okay, so moving on from that, but we really, these schools, Plainfield, all right, before I'm done. So Plainfield did have the right answer on that. And I posted about that because Plainfield pretty much come out, said every student's supposed to be in here. We are not disrupting our learning environment. If, kids walk out and they leave this school, they will be punished just like they would per the handbook, everything else. And I got to say, kudos on Plainfield, because that is the right answer. The right answer is, the kids are not supposed to be disrupted with this stuff. They're not supposed to be in there playing politics. They're supposed to be learning math and English and social studies and all of these things. And if everybody wants to talk about it, that's fine and dandy. But you can't be sitting there and using these people as pawns. You can't send the kids out to be pawns in this little political game where they're playing theater and the left's just trying to create new heroes of the left for everybody to fawn over, who are just actually dirtbags doing wrong stuff. I mean, if you hit an officer with your car, that's a dirtbag thing to do. If you sit there and attack officers and kick out the lights on that is a dirtbag thing to do. I mean, but that is what the left does over and over, and everybody needs to open up their eyes to it and see what's going on. So, yeah, all that. It's all theater. They got kids walking out. They're using them. Everybody that has a hand in that, all from the top to the bottom, needs to be condemned. School representative, principals, superintendents, anybody that's attached to it and allowing this crap to go on needs to be fired. That's it. Final word. Okay, so moving on. On the water thing that we've talked about, we've had a lot going on here lately in regards to the water. There was a big meeting here recently that had the Lebanon utilities, that had government officials from Indianapolis, that had members of the Eagle Creek Park. Like, they all got together. This meeting was 4 hours, and the long story short of this meeting was, there was an ecosystem scientist and hydrologist warning them of all the problems that this could cause and how it could harm the environment and these toxins getting through and all this other stuff. And pretty much what we had was Lebanon and the citizens representatives nodding their head and telling everybody it was going to be okay because there was policies in place, and it was all a bunch of BS. It was all smoke and mirrors, and it was all just everything you thought didn't happen anymore. Honestly, I mean, we've heard about that stuff in history, but I had thought, and I mean, maybe this is my own stupidity, but I just thought as a nation we had moved past to being a little smarter than at the point we are now, where literally everybody is like, oh my God, putting all this stuff into people's drinking water supply is a horrible idea. I can input it all into AI machine, the Grok or this and that on X, and you can put it on expert, make them think about it as much as you want. And it comes back to telling you how bad of an idea it is. So many people, like I said, this is a ecosystem scientist telling them how bad of an idea it is. And all of these people, all of these corporate, cronies, because that's what they are, is all our local government people have just became some sort of corporate crony. We don't know what's promised to them or what deal they got going out there, but they're all in for their own reasons. But that's the thing. And they're still going through with it. They're just going to know we're going to do it anyway. Like, no, literally everybody's telling you, like, this is a bad idea. This could harm people. This is definitely sending toxins into the mouths of children. We shouldn't do this. But there they are. They're just doubling down, saying they're going to do it anyway. And they're going to keep pushing forward, even though they don't have all the, right permitting for everything. They don't have all the right of ways secured. They don't have everything, but they're laying pipe right now because they're going to do it one way or the other. And you know what? This is going to create, and I was thinking about this, ride with me on this, guy. So you got to think. So if you start, everybody knows that Eli Lilly is putting their wastewater into that drinking water supply for Indianapolis and surrounding communities. And that includes Brownsburg, Pittsburgh, Westfield, Zionsville, Whitestown, soon to be Lebanon. All these communities are now going to be drinking this Lilly water. So this really adds, and Meta, all the other industrial companies they put in there. I'm just using Lilly water because it sounds good right now to start. But if you think, once everybody realizes that you're drinking Lilly water, the biggest pharmaceutical, one of the biggest pharmaceutical giants in the world, and you're going to sit there and you're all drinking their wastewater, the people could develop a yuck factor. So there is some science behind why they dump wastewater downstream from areas and try to put distance in between it. And it's so people don't get this yuck factor, because once people realize, if their brain inputs that what they're drinking, then it really starts to bother them. Because now you got to think, we're going to have this Lilly water and it's going to be going to all these communities. So if other people outside of our area, everybody gets on the radar that, our area is like a Flint, Michigan. People aren't going to go move to Flint, Michigan because they probably think that their water is going to be bad and have all that stuff in it, because there's been a lot of stuff. But if everybody starts making the connections outside of our area, that this whole area is served off Lilly water, and it develops a yuck factor, that could have a long-term harm that won't be easy to undo. It's one of those things. It's like, once you've done it, and if this keeps going, because this isn't something everybody's going to be silent about. This isn't going to be something that's just going to go away. It's going to continue to be talked about, and it's going to be every time a new company comes into the LEAP district, they're going to be analyzing what's coming in their wastewater. And during that big meeting or whatever, they're like, we won't let any companies come in that have any waste that we can't process. They can't process pharmaceuticals. They're lying to you. They can't do it. The processes don't exist to be able to remove this. The fact is, there's over 3,000 pharmaceutical compounds, and they don't even test for them. They don't know how much of it's in there. And some of that stuff, it doesn't come out at all. Some of them, they can get 50% of it out of it, but some of it actually gets more potent because the process of waste treatment actually makes it bind together. So they are lying to you right there, saying that they won't let any the companies are already there with the chemicals that they can't get out. That is the absolute truth. And they know that's true, but they'll keep coming out there and lying to everybody. And that's what I'm saying. If everybody else starts to figure out that they're lying and the stuff in this water isn't good. Is everybody going to want to be out there drinking it? Is everybody going to want to have that fountain Coke with it in it? Are they going to want to have a PFAS pale ale from their favorite local craft brewer? No. And this stuff is going to come to a head. This water whole thing that's going on, water is going to be the biggest topic of the next, 100 years. I guarantee it, because they are pushing us into a crisis on it, and every bit of it. The talk about the polluting, because as more water gets taken, more groundwater gets used up, more people are going to be pushed onto these surface sources, and it's going to just become more and more of a conversation. So, okay, I always try to end the show with something a little more lighthearted, so we're going to move on from that and get into a couple things here. So, did everybody see the picture of our Secretary of State, Diego, shoveling snow? He made this whole post about how he was out there working like everybody else, shoveling snow, and it was the biggest cringe thing I've witnessed in a really long time, because it was just a snow blower, perfect line, him with the shovel right there into that fresh snow. The shovel still had the sticker on it, and I mean that kind of stupid post. You should have just said something else. I don't know. You should have posted a picture of you in the state house saying, "Oh, it's cold, but I'm still here working," or something else. Don't go out there and stage some picture in the show. I mean, that's the stuff, and we've seen it throughout all the politics when they do these staged, trying to make themselves look like regular people and personalize them a little bit. And really, it just shows you how stupid they really are and how stupid they think you are. So, Diego Morales, absolute idiot. Okay, so moving on to another idiot. Oh my good God. So everybody, on our local boards or whatever, witnessed Matt Gentry's giant virtue signaling. Okay, guys, so here's the backstory. So while you can have protests on the square with leftists chanting 8647, code for killing Trump, all this other hate towards MAGA stuff, you can have all that, and our dear mayor, Matt Gentry, who's a quote unquote Republican, will sit there and not say a peep. Well, here lately, because of the cold, one of the ponds over in town is frozen over, and somebody had went out there and put a swastika in the snow. Supposedly, there was a picture of it. They got a swastika put in the snow, and he wrote a whole thing. It had to have been 4 or 5 paragraphs long of his and how much this is against our values and all this other stuff. And guys, when you're a political person like I am, you can see this stuff. It reeks of, that virtue signaling where he just wanted. See, so right now, the lefts have this big thing where they talk about Nazis and this big fantasy. And so old Gentry decides he's going to go out there and placate them and try to play up to these leftists a little bit, who are now a little mad at him since he's polluting Eagle Creek with his plan for this wastewater from the LEAP development. So, he played, and then you get all these leftist seals just sitting there clapping like, "Oh, he's so good. I'm so glad somebody that really cares." All this, it's painful to sit there and read, because you guys got to understand, if he cared about all these issues, he would care about all of them when they happened on both sides. He was just right now, he's been catching hell about all this pollution and stuff going in the Eagle Creek Reservoir. People are mad. You got the Sierra Club out there that's putting out, they had a protest about it. There's petitions going around, multiple ones. One of them had 15,000 signatures, and we've had big ones going around these different people. They're all engaging from different areas. And so since he's been catching some flank from the left, which he kind of likes some people, it seems, he tried to placate them with this big virtue signaling that he was on their team about the Nazis. And let's face it, guys, Nazis only live inside the heads of far left, broken individuals and people from the 30s and 40s in Germany and over there in Europe, because we don't have Nazis. They cheapen the words by even using this terminology all the time. People are not getting rounded up and gassed in chambers. There's not mass murders and deaths and torture of people. And for them to keep using that terminology is absolutely garbage. They're trying to find the most hateful rhetoric they can come up with that will enrage the stupid people the most. And the good mayor of Lebanon decided he was going to join in on that. So yeah, all right. And one more little thing before I call it a day here. So always like that to end on the highest note I can. And hey, guys, we had a ruling this last week where both the doctor and the psychiatrist were found liable for damaging the child. We had somebody that got transitioned. Well, they went to detransition and they filed a lawsuit against the psychiatrist and the doctor that did it, that mutilated this child, and they won. So with that, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. See you next week.